Good morning, everybody. Saturday sweep series, Wall Street Jesus here. Cold, cold, cold Saturday here in New York on the East Coast. I mean, freezing. I'm lucky I got any voice left in my throat. I wake up swallowing nails every morning, nostrils burning, head pounding. Story of the winter here. But aside from that, cold winter, red hot market, crazy week this week. We'll go over a number of different things that occurred this week that not only several of you probably profited from, not only were there opportunities you probably missed because, gotta admit, we were caught off guard a bit, but at the same time, there's some lessons out there from this week that I think we can grow from and learn from. That will really help us down the line, especially in the market like this. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Also, some interesting activity, very broad sweeper activity out there from the names we've been seeing, a little tech, and we're seeing more and more spec type action, which if you're a trader, you don't mind that. Bitcoin plays, CES, trying to catch a CES move and stuff like that. You got that conference this week in Vegas. So a lot of things to talk about, a lot of names to talk about, a lot of different groups to talk about. So we'll dive into that. Okay. And Mike, before we started here, brought up a couple of things we should definitely hit on. Like I said, a week that not only was fun to trade, most likely profitable as long as you weren't short, which you had no business being. But a lot of stuff we can learn from about not having a bias and shit like that. So we'll talk about that. All right. Let me get this out of the way first. For anybody who's new, go to wallstreetjesus.com. Anything we talk about here that you may not understand, you'll get a lot of answers to those questions from this site. Okay. You click on the strategy section here, short little blogs. Quick, easy to read, not complicated by no means. We're traders. We're not writing poems here. Okay. So pretty easy to understand. And you get a better grasp on what it is I do, what members try to do, what the edge out of all this intel actually is. Okay. And a couple things that we offer throughout the Saturday Sweep series. This is fairly new. We got a 3-day trial, no credit card required. You get access to pretty much everything you need to get a feel, okay? Meaning the Steamroom, the only thing you won't be able to do is post, but you'll be able to see the alerts, the audio video, the commentary from myself, Lucci, other traders, and so on, okay? So again, that's a 3-day trial, and no credit card, no nothing, so you get a feel there. Also, if you're interested after that, it's 50% off the first month, $225, so you get 50% off that. That's pretty much the premium package. That's everything we got, okay, included, and I want to stress, including private Twitter. So you're going to have private Twitter access as well. And private Twitter, so you know, all the real-time alerts, as they hit the board, they come into here. You get some commentary as well, open interest in the morning, notable changes and stuff like that, sentiment stuff that we look at. The biggest difference is if you wanted to just go solely for private Twitter and not the room, the biggest difference is the audio video. Okay. I'm on there all day long throughout the session, giving basically play-by-play, color, analysis, sharing my opinion on the action that comes in. Okay. I rarely leave the desk, so I'm there all day. And also you get exposure to other traders out here. You got Lucci, you got other traders that are trading a variety of things, different styles. So not everybody has the same style, so you can learn a little bit. We learn a little bit from each and every trader in here. So that's the biggest difference, okay? But if you're looking for just the private Twitter, You can go now. We made that a little easier to access. You click on the products, private Twitter feed, and all you got to do is put your handle in there. This is $59.99 a month, $60 a month we offer, and that's just for private Twitter. Okay, but I want to stress this is included in the premium package if you sign up for that. All right, any questions? You can ask at the end of this webinar. Hit Lucci or myself up at any time, and we'll be able to help you out. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what actually took place this week, because it was fascinating. All right, let's start with this. You guys know I hate trying to predict shit in this game because I know it's impossible. Okay, I like to have a game plan. That's pretty much as far as I will go, or as close as I will come to trying to predict what the market may do. And it's rarely what the market may do. I just look to have a game plan based on flow and sentiment of what things I should focus on, basically. Okay. And what happened this week caught a lot of people off guard. And if you go back and think of it in hindsight, which is always easiest, obviously, it shouldn't have. Okay. And this is what I mean by that. If you remember going back a couple of weeks over the Saturdays with the holidays and all, maybe it was actually a little more than that, we were talking about how the best of the wise guy activity out there, the best of the option order flow out there, the cleanest of the flow, the best looking, most bullish flow was coming outside of tech. Okay. And then what I mean by that, you had commodity plays, you had infrastructure plays, plays like Freeport, FCX, Alcoa, US Steel, builders, drywall companies, all names like that were seeing the best of activity. Food stocks, they were on fire. The Wendy's, Red Robin. So we were seeing a lot of activity in stuff that hasn't seen that type of activity or momentum all year. Okay. So that started up the last month, I would say, and change of last year. And we were looking for it to carry into this year. Okay. Now, granted, a lot of those names, right? The FCX, Alcoa, X, they got a little ahead of themselves, right? I mean, you think? Okay, so FCX was catching flow at the end of this consolidation, right? Some lengthy consolidation here, catching aggressive activity, big size at the tail end of this, and just exploded. So now, going into this week, we're up here on this Freeport. Alcoa, same shit, exploded. X. Okay, the transportation names was another area. Just everything exploded. So what we thought was a possibility is maybe they come back into tech and let these things breathe. Okay, that was a possibility. And the reason we were thinking that is not only were a lot of those names that were catching the flow overheated and had huge runs to the upside, but looking at some of the NASDAQ sentiment stuff, just that one pull and consolidation in the hot names and the semis, all the hot spots of tech that people were going nuts over, as you can see on this chart, that little pull and consolidation washed out a ton of bullish sentiment. Okay, so this is what we were talking about going into last week. Now, personally, I thought that when it was all said and done, we would get something like this down here. We would get a total washout. Why did I think that? Again, that's just my gut from my experience saying that, because of how bullish everybody was prior to that. You can see that we had readings up here that we've never seen before, as bullish as this market has been. Okay? So I thought there was more to come, basically. And I really believe that we were going to see some shorter term flow in the tech stuff, meaning traders looking to play a bounce like we've been seeing from time to time. If you remember, we were seeing names like Micron get some action. Hold on, let me make this here. On this pullback here, and then you had a rally. So something similar to that, or an ADI, SWKS. So some scattered flow, but I didn't think we'd see that much quality in tech. Okay. And also, I thought if we would see tech flow, that the rest of the stuff out there, they would allow to breathe. You know, there wouldn't be flow in anything else, that they would let them cool off, basically. So that was the game plan going into this week. Now, it wasn't totally different, but what happened was, and I'll tell you exactly when it slapped me in the head, and that was day one after the new year. Okay. We come in, we get a bounce in tech. Right away, what I'm anticipating is some spec action, weeklies in Facebook, weeklies in NVIDIA, trying to play the momentum. You know what I mean? Trying to play off the strength. The first two sweeps that slap us in the head into that morning, Amazon, Google, and they were legit. Okay. So we come into a little tech rally. That was January 2nd. Okay. And when I say tech, I'm basically throwing, like when I show this NASDAQ chart, for me, so you know, that's a measure on the hot stuff out there. Okay, so semis, FANG names, that's basically what this gives me a gauge on. All right, and the first thing we see a couple sweepers come after Amazon aggressively in size. Okay, and then we see Google catch a good looking sweeper. Then we see Goog catch a monster block buyer. And now at that point, and a lot of people in the room, I'm like, all right, this looks different now. You know what I mean? This looks different. Because aside from that, we were seeing a barrage of buying in almost everything else. Okay, so it wasn't selective activity. It wasn't they thought Google and Amazon were going to outperform everything else. It was in the midst of a ton of aggressive activity everywhere else, but two really good-looking orders. Well, it was more than that, but two good-looking names catching orders. Okay, so that pretty much set the stage, and that was the slap in the head for me to say, okay, now we got to pay attention to everything. Okay, I got to keep wetting the throat here because I'm going to lose it, so I apologize. But here's what caught me off guard. They didn't come out of all the other stuff to do it. They didn't ignore everything that the money's been going into while tech was dormant for a bit. They were buying everything, literally everything. If you had to pick a spot that didn't catch as much heat, it would probably be the financials. But even there, Morgan Stanley caught some action. Wells Fargo caught some action. Goldman caught a June block, no sweeper activity, but a size June block buyer. So there was some action there as well. And you have earnings coming up. So that could have a lot to do with it. All right, but they didn't really ignore or come out. There wasn't rotation. I think that's what I'm getting at. That's what took me off guard. The rotation we've been seeing, it wasn't there anymore. And we were talking about that the chance of rotation not being there may be the opposite to the downside, right? maybe they come out of everything now because of all the other stuff getting overheated. Remember we were talking about that? Maybe that's one of the options going into the new year. It was the total opposite, which shouldn't surprise us, right? I mean, the market is known to do that. But I think that's what caught me off guard this week. They came into everything. And I never, that thought didn't even come into my head because of where the market is and the drastic rotation that we've been seeing. That wasn't even an option for me. And that's where I went wrong. Okay. But don't think for a second, that because I didn't expect it, when the flow's there, I'm going to ignore it. See, that's the one thing that I learned and will never do. You know, a couple of us were talking before the webinar started, how they missed one name in particular because they weren't. That's fine. You're going to miss names. But there's a big difference between missing a name and ignoring a whole batch of action that comes in because you think that's not the case. Because I told you, light bulbs went off for me in this game when I realized I don't know shit, and I will never know shit when it comes to this game. The smartest guys out there get it wrong often when it comes to predicting stuff. All right, so you got to have something out there. We talk about that signal, something you have confidence in to crack your bias, because that bias could be a killer. And I'm not even talking about something bad here, because we're talking about being bullish and looking somewhere else. What about people who are short this market right now, trying to outsmart this market? And they're out there. And mark my words, this bull market will not be over till you see every single one of those guys silent. Bias could kill you in this game. All right, so that's what took place this week. That's why this week was so explosive. They were buying everything. Everything. All right, and it went from quality action in some good-looking names to spec action in the next Bitcoin momentum play, or run up into the CES conference next week. Biotechs that may have something coming up. So you had quality, you had momentum, you had that speculative flow, you had everything this week. And when you get everything, this is what you get in the market. This is the type of momentum you see. We've been seeing rotation. We haven't been seeing this. Constant rotation. All right, so we'll go through some of the names that are still out there that look decent, some of the themes that are still out there. But if this week is any lesson of a sort for you, whatever you may think is going to happen, you got to have something you have confidence in. As far as like me, it's the flow. You know what I mean? The flow trumps all. So if I see smart money doing something out there, and just because it's something I think couldn't happen, I'm still going to look to take advantage of that. All right, so we'll go over a lot of the stuff out there, including the setups. Okay, I want to touch on a couple setups. First off, here's what I want to start off with. Okay, we talked about this name often. One of very few, and that's not in an arrogant way. A lot has to do with the market being such a bull market, but one of the very few good-looking, sharp activity plays out there that got off to a really poor start. Okay, and Granted, there was some real negative news around this shit at the time, but they like to buy into that stuff. Okay? They like to buy into it. Even if they're early, if they find quality and opportunity in a good name like this, even though the consensus, the public is so negative and that may weigh on the stock short term, they'll just buy more. And if they're early, they'll roll it out and buy more. Okay, so the point of EA here is, I was telling Mike before the webinar started, it makes me feel good about the type of order flow that I pay attention to. It makes me feel, it gives me more confidence when we get news like we got Friday, even though this thing's been a shit performer. Like, win or lose doesn't make me feel any more confident in wise guy activity, as silly as that may sound. You know why? Because a lot of it's luck. I see it every day. I see people on social media, Twitter, talking about certain flow that I know is bullshit. I know is tied to stock. I know is not aggressive activity, even though they may think it. And more than not, they're going to get lucky because the market's going higher, and they'll probably carry the stock up with them. You know what I mean? So they'll think that they can buy any big block they see, and they got some sort of strategy out there. But I know in the long run, when the market's not as strong as it is, they're going to learn the hard way, like I did. Okay? But when I get news like we got on EA Friday, and for those of you who don't know the news, it was just simply somebody who knows, smart money, as we like to refer to it, was building a position in EA. Announced there was a 13F filing on Friday. And that's what we were seeing. That's basically what the flow was telling us. That's all it was telling us. That's what wise guy activity tells us every single time. It's not telling us that the stock is going to go higher and meet their strike price. It tells us that the sharper money out there is building a position, is getting aggressive in the name we're looking at. So when I see this type of start, and then you get the news on Friday of that, it makes me feel good. Not good, confident, I should say. That's what gives me the confidence in what I look at on a day-to-day basis. Win or lose from here, I'm being honest with you. Win or lose from this point is irrelevant to me. Now, it may not be to some of you who are in the thing and saying, Jesus, shut your mouth, we need to make money with it. But I'm saying it's not all about win or lose in this game. There's other stuff out there that can get in the way. That's why there's no guarantees in this game. You know what I mean? It's not that easy. There are other intangibles out there. What's the market doing at the time? There could be some exogenous event that comes out of left field and throws everything for a loop. I remember, like this one in particular, Ryder, okay? That one good-looking sweeper was just a week too early, 1 week too early, and got caught in a pull in the transportation sector, which was pretty vicious, and then ended up being, new highs. And chances are he didn't buy just Ryder. That fund or whatever, whoever was buying that was probably buying the JB Hunt that we saw action in, the CHRW, the UNPs, because we saw that flow explode all over the place. But sometimes you step into a loser for a reason like this. They were early. They were a bit too early. But more than not, they nail them, guys. They nail them. Okay. And when you see them, there's nothing better. You guys know that. For those of you who know me, know when they come into this shit, DWDP, can't get out of its own way, up and down and choppy for a couple months now. And they come in here and start getting aggressive. That's the best of the action. Again, not relying on DWDP, win or lose. That's just one name. But overall, net, out of 10 setups like this is where the risk reward is in your favor in a big way. And the edge is in your favor in a big way. Why? Because you have consolidation here. Okay? This thing's pretty wound up. You got a 50-50 chance of this thing coming out or breaking down out of this, probably. And if it catches sweepers and they're aggressive, if that bumps your odds up to 60-40, you got something special in the game of trading. That's all it is. But we saw a lot of this type of stuff throughout this whole rally, even, starting up last year. FCX, again, I keep talking about it just because it was pitch perfect. You don't want to touch this thing. Who the hell wants to touch this thing? This was a tough trade forever. And then the action gets aggressive here, and boop. And we started to see it in JD, which a lot of us, day trading, swing trading, had nice profits in it Friday. Didn't even have to hang around too long, and left some June calls just in case the thing gets crazy. And the difference, you guys remember, we've been talking about JD for a while, good and bad. You remember back here, JD. Remember, I think the first sweep series we started up was when they were buying JD aggressively into that consolidation. That was that over here? No, over here maybe, over here, and then got out and had this enormous run. Okay, so only normal that this thing has to breathe this out, and that's it. That's what it did. There were some trades in between. It frustrated a lot of people in between. So what was different this time around here as opposed to the other flow that we saw? If you guys remember, the other flow, if you remember, we were talking about was spec action, weekly out of the money calls. 2 weeks out, buying 20 cents, right? Decent contract size, but in reality, wasn't a lot of money. Was spec action. They were trading. This time around, she caught a real deal June bet. A real deal June bet. So now looking for the trade, not looking the cheap way out, lay some wood, buy some time, and let's get busy. And then the next day, the flow pretty much exploded around it with momentum, spec action, and so on. All right. So, this thing looks good. Who knows, what the market may do this week coming off the week we had. Maybe you get a dip in this. There hasn't been another spot of entry on any of these things. If you say, I'll wait for it, you miss the trade. Everything we've been seeing out there. So we'll see if that changes here. But there were a lot of stuff like this, a lot of things like that. We'll go over some of the names, and then I'll get in. I know you guys probably have a lot of names you may be interested in. Hold on. All right. Let's start. Oh, here's another one too. BlackBerry, the flow exploded there, and then caught some good looking action Friday again. This is the stuff I don't know what to tell you guys. You know what I mean? You know that. I have a tough time with these. Why? Because it's not the initial activity. This flow exploded this whole past week. And you're getting some good looking buying up here. You know? For me, this is tough. Like I said, I like that. You know what I mean? Before the move. This I have a tough time with as far as swing trading and stuff. You know, you could get in the middle of this on weakness. You see some flow come in, right to green, that type of thing. But I have a tough time sitting in a position all the way up here. You know what I mean? After a move and action already. But you had some really good looking activity. You had some deep in the money sweepers. They swept everything in this BlackBerry. Everything. This was on Friday. Here's another name, probably the action of the week, in my opinion. FCAU. So they started buying this. Look at this, sideways, 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 you know, but still strong. And at the start of the week, started buying this thing like you'll never see buying in this thing. You know what I mean? It was crazy. Like they already knew the outcome. They were buying this thing. And she just exploded. A lot of names, guys, that you wouldn't think could move like this. That's been a common theme out there. You're hearing that from every single one of us. Wow, I never thought FCX could move like this. You know? That's what we're hearing a lot of. So this FCAU ton of flow exploded. Obviously up here, you're not chasing that. What else we got? NEPT. This is an interesting name too. This is spec action, obviously, but some decent looking sweepers there, and they've been there for a while. This is a biotech, though, I think. Yeah. So we've been seeing sporadic sweeper activity in this for quite a while, for quite a bit of time, and into Friday weakness, they were sweeping $2 and $3 calls. I don't know if any of you guys know this name. Anybody familiar with this name? Anybody in this name? It's been catching flow for a while. NEPT? Do they have something? Maybe they got some sort of data pending or something? Anybody know? They make medicine out of algae? Jesus. Yeah, I don't know the story. All I can tell you is they've been accumulating, and I guess, you know what it is? This has been the best of the activity that I've seen in it. There's been a lot of small, sporadic sweepers in it, all on the call side, but Friday caught my eye. That's why it's on here. So just in case anybody knows that name, LMT, that's a good-looking name. Caught a good-looking order, too. This is Lockheed Martin. So you don't need me to tell you why this thing's bullish. Look at that. So this is new highs. This had a nice move after the sweep, too. So they came in on Friday morning, and he sweeps, call it 750, Feb 335 calls, lays some nice wood, almost a $300,000 bet, which is a significant order for Lockheed Martin. And he swept multiple exchanges to do it. The stock was 326.83. I think it moved after. Yeah. Closed at 329.68. So I had a nice little move. Let's see. Well, the market was strong too. Had a nice move early on. So Lockheed Martin catching a nice sweep. And you can see already, right? Just I mentioned a couple names to you here that have been catching action, right? JD, FCAU, Chrysler, BlackBerry, NEPT, a biotech, Lockheed Martin, defense. You see what I mean? It's everything. Comcast, another decent sized sweep. Been catching a lot of action, this Comcast. Now, I will say they had some big Jan action out there open, so it could be pushing out some stuff. You know, they started buying the lows there. It's been creeping higher. But, you know, as she's been creeping, you know, starting to look at highs there. These things were a disaster. Can you imagine? These things are close to be breaking out here. Unbelievable. They were a disaster, these things. You know how bad this Comcast looked when it started to catch action down here? Let's see. Here's what it looked like when it started to catch action, so you know. Well, how do I go back with this shit? Oh. Yeah, so basically, you get that. It was in this little downtrend sell-off here. They were a bit early. I think lows, tested lows, and now creeping higher again. Yeah, they started to buy the Comcast in November. Yeah, John. The first batch of buying, they were a little bit early because it continued to sell. It went to like new lows after they bought it, but they just kept buying it. Huge leap action, exactly. Huge leaps. That's what caught our eye initially. The leaps. Somebody was just buying the living daylights. Someone was buying the living daylights out of those leaps. So she's looking good. You know, keep an eye on that. Again, tough to trade this thing. It's tough, especially already that she's had the move. You got to try to like buy weakness and make sure you have some time if you're looking to play this up here now. Just in case she gets caught in a little consolidation here. Knowing this market, where she'll go parabolic. But just in case. So there you go. Broadcasting name. Very diverse group here. Vuzi. Several of us traded this on Friday. Couple guys held it. The majority of us day traded it. So here's the story on Vuzi. There was a small sweep. You guys know I love those small, sneaky sweepers that came in and, you know, came in a name like this where it has to catch your eye in this type of environment. So had our eyeballs on it already, and a couple of guys knew the name already, so that always helps. And then they came back after it. So let me see here. Do I have both sweeps on here? Yeah, you can see that bottom one here. This sweep of the Feb 7. Look at this, okay? I can't block it out, but you see this bottom sweeper here? Hold on. See this one right here? Look what he paid. 25 cents for the 7.5 Febs. Then this guy comes back. That was at 12 o'clock. This guy comes back a couple hours later, starts sweeping the 7.5 Febs. What's he pay? 70 cents. $25 to 70 cents. Could have got a trade off his buying alone. Well, I don't know how liquid these things are anyway. But what I'm stressing is he came back to pay up, which was a bullish sign. Let me get this out of here. So they're presenting at the CES conference coming up. They're into what? Virtual reality and stuff? Something like that. And had a nice close, some volume. Look at the volume. Look at the volume explode. So again, these spec plays too. A lot of interesting action in names like this. Okay, so we had that. Just be careful chasing some of these things because Friday it was a nice day, and some of these things are higher. Here's another one you guys probably heard me mention a couple times. UEPS. All right, so here's the scoop here. This thing caught some action, had a big move out of this. Okay, and it was a Bitcoin play back then, caught a little bit of action prior. So then what happened was after this, in consolidation, there was I think it was two size call spreads, one April, one July. Okay, call spreads. Just this past week, one player who opened those call spreads closed the second leg of that spread. In other words, he bought the first leg of the calls and sold out of the money calls, right? To reduce his cost. That's a call spread. He bought to close the second leg that he sold, leaving him just long calls out of that spread. From my experience, that's extremely bullish when they do that because they're anticipating a move now. And then we saw them come back and sweep it up. One of the orders was Feb 13s. Okay, so we saw him take down the second leg of that spread, which was bullish in itself, and then come in and sweep some Feb calls the next day. And she had a decent move. Up 50 cents, right, on Friday? Yeah. But, this is a Bitcoin thing. Who knows? Could get funky. Yeah, a lot of people aren't. I mean, listen, some of us are trading these things, locking in the 30, 40 cents, but the majority of people are rolling the dice in these things looking for, some big moves. Like good old OSTK keeps ramping. All right, so you got another spec play there. IGT, one of my favorite probably action was from Friday. IGT, most of you guys know, they were buying this consolidation here, was it? Yeah, it was here. Wow. Seems so long ago. Huge move. Got quiet for a while here. And Sweeper's first popping up on Friday. She had a nice close. Close strong. You can see there, that's the intraday. So this group might end up being in play. You got some consolidation there. You got this IGT, SGMS, which I own some leaps personally, has been a monster. You got some of the other names. I think they're bought out, right? I don't even know if they're still around anymore. Penn, they're still around, but going through some sort of buyout merger thing. All right, but that IGT, nice action there. Aggressive. Nothing huge, but could be the start. Feb 30s. They paid up to, looks like 70 cents, started at 60. And 27 change, yeah. So you had multiple sweepers there too. All right, so keep an eye on IGT. The good thing too, IGT, I remember from the last round when the action heated up, I literally traded that stock every day. I'm not kidding. Because what would happen is there would be some weakness in the morning, like, nothing much, maybe down 20 cents. And then sweepers would come in. So then I'd get in it and she'd go to green, and I have a trade out of it, you know. And then the same thing the next day, and the same because they kept coming. I don't know if it's going to work out that way this time, but you could keep an eye on it there, especially into weakness. TDS, this was an unusual block buyer. TDS, some telecom name. So this wasn't a sweep. This was just an unusual block, but really unusual. This is a name that doesn't catch much action. I think it was like 40 times volume. So I don't know if this thing has the capabilities of seeing sweeper activity. The stock is liquid, though. Stock is liquid. TPT, what did they buy here? Oh, TDS, I mean. TDS May. So they went out to May 30s. That's something to keep an eye on. GMED. This is another non-sweeper, unusual buyer. This stock I remember looking at was hot, though. Wow. Yeah. So what they buy here again? Let's see. Again, non-sweeper. Oh, Jan 45s. So looking for a further push there. And here's another one. MSCC. Micro Semi. March 55s. This was ridiculous action for this name, too. Again, the unfortunate thing was up big on Friday and was up 1, 2, 3, 4 days prior to that. So maybe could use a breather and something to look at. But you can see what's developing here. Definitely, without a doubt, a name to keep an eye on. No doubt. You know, listen, it costs me money a lot of times. As a swing trader, as a day trader, I'm not a fan of chasing, but especially in this market, it costs me a lot of money. So if you hear me not sound as excited because a name has already run, I kind of like to get them before they run or right when they're starting to run. You know, but some of these things just don't stop. Don't stop. All right, so definitely keep an eye on that micro semi as well. And I think that's it for Friday. Let me get to a couple of your names now. I'm sure you got some interesting names there, and maybe you can refresh my memory on some of the stuff that I'm not talking about today. Let's see. Hold on, I got to take a sip of my coffee. I'm losing voice by the second here. Yeah, Boeing has been an animal forever now. I mean, this thing. Jesus Christ. You got to be kidding me with this stock. Did we speak about this? Do you guys remember when Trump just took office and he bashed Boeing about the cost of their planes, what they're charging, and the stock got hit? Do you guys remember that? Was that the best buying opportunity of a lifetime? You guys remember? He said, oh, Boeing's ripping us off. That was like his first comment. And now look at this thing. And they sold it off thinking that Trump was going to be anti-Boeing. Unbelievable. All right, so let's see. You guys are rattling off some names. I'm going to randomly throw some out there. George is talking INCY, AXON, and UPRO. INCY, AXON, biotechs, that saw some activity. I'm typing into the wrong thing. This AXON had a little sweeper on Friday, unusual sweeper. This is what she looks like. So been battered. I mean, there's a lot of biotech action out there, guys. So you guys might know about but you guys probably know more about the name than I do. of what they got coming. You know what I mean? What they got ahead. So, are they going to be at a conference? Are they showing anything at the conference? Stuff like that. So, all I can tell you is if they caught action or not, and some of the better looking action out there. This one, Agio, caught a sweeper that I like. I have no idea about the name. Okay. Again, I'm just talking about the order flow. That's all I can help you guys with. The name itself in biotech land, I have no idea. So this Agio could have caught a good looking sweeper into this weakness. That was recent. AXON was a spec sweeper. In other words, speculative, looking to speculate on maybe data or some shit like that coming out. INCY was non-sweeper activity, but saw some buying. It did see some buying. The UPRO, George, that you're mentioning, caught more action Friday and caught action prior to that. I don't know which one you're talking about. But UPRO, they've been buying, which is a play on the S&P 500. They also, here was the other thing. Hold on. I don't mean to jump around, but I got to show you this. Oh, by the way, the gold miners, too, are catching action. All right? So you want to complicate things even more? Can the gold miners rally with everything else? Is that possible? They have been of late. That's when I say they're buying everything, they're buying everything. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. You see this guy? Yes, Nem caught a big bet. Newmont Mining. Look at this guy. Okay, so you remember what I started the webinar off with? Amazon, Google sweepers. Just to stress, Amazon, Google sweepers are rare. It's not a common thing. Okay, so you know that. This is also rare. TQQQ. Look what this guy did. That was that day. That was right when we came back from New Year. TQQQ is a bet on the Qs, right? Degenerate, double ETF, leveraged. So I wasn't expecting, my point, I wasn't expecting this type of activity in Techland. I don't know if you guys got a chance here, so you know, because somebody was asking me what they buy in Amazon. Amazon, was this? So you can see 950, Jan 12th for next week, 1180s, paid 1480. And was that yeah, that was before that. Yeah. And you can see we haven't had really any Amazon sweeper activity since Bazooka. So that's how rare it is. Here's Google. Probably it was the same guy, most likely, who did them both. Here's the Google. This one's still open. Jan 12th, 1065 calls, $11. And the Goog, look at this guy. But you see, look at this, 402 Feb 1060 calls for $35, 34.54, 34.50. At first glance, that doesn't look like this, right? So that, the TQQQ, My point being, there was real buying coming in. That's all. That's the moral of the story there. It wasn't shenanigans. What the hell was I doing? Oh, here. Okay. Let me get to, yeah. So the miners, GDX, have had some bullish activity. Newmont, um, trying to think of some other individual names. ABX. Those are the three off the top of my head. Nugget caught a little bit of activity. So a GDX, if you guys remember, right before the end of the year, there was that huge volume. You guys remember that? Hold on. Oh, good. I could show you the action from Friday too. Where is it? Oh, let me go to the latest. So it gets it in order here. This is just Friday's action. Yeah, this is Friday's action. So they swept some for next week, the 23 and a halves GDX. All right. So I know a lot of you guys um like trading the miners, have been looking for a trade. See, what I hate about the miners, you bearish the market a lot of times, right? With gold. Not all the time, but that's what I don't like. So the thing is can the miners rally with the market? And they have been, right? They have been. And you got, copper moving and FCX moving, X moving. So it's been a lot of miners out there. Yes, John makes up a good point. In 2016, and that was that time they were really hot. Flow exploded. They were moving with the market. Good point. Yeah. So it's possible. It sure is possible. But that's the only thing I'm not a fan of, with gold in the miners. More than not, it moves, against the market. You're betting against the market. So that's the only thing. But there is some flow there. We'll see if it explodes. But GDX looking more bullish than recent, and some of the names that have been quiet have been seeing action. Newmont caught a pretty decent looking bet. Let me see here. And there, I've seen put action in that thing. Yeah, this is it. Right here. $600,000 opening sweep. That's a legit bet. June 39s. Interesting. Yeah, something to keep an eye on. Something to keep an eye on. Bitcoin, happy coin, gold. Let's run everything. Why not? Let's run everything. Might as well go out with a bang, no? All right, so what else we got here? CCL, Mr. William. That's an interesting name. CCL caught a really nice looking bet. I like the CCL. I think there's two ways you can play it. Similar to like the DuPont, you can wait and see if they come after it again. Or I think the order itself, if you like the name, I think it's already worthy. They might hit this group up, which could be nice. Here it is right here, right? So this was a block, big block, $745,000 block, but there was some small sweeper activity around it. So that makes me feel a hell of a lot more better about that block. So basically, William, there's two ways. Like I said, if you like the name, okay, If you like this name and we're looking for an entry, you could definitely get in off that action already. If you want to be patient and wait for some sweeper activity, maybe give you a heads up on the timing of it. You know what I mean? Get that timing down, pat a little more. You can do that as well. The reason I say that is because the big order was a block. It wasn't a sweep. Make sense? If that big order I just showed you, if she was a sweeper, I would tell you don't even waste your time. Just get in the thing. 312. What time was that sweep? 306. See, here's the thing with it, William. This guy, this sweeper, may have just been front running that block. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I will add. But I like this setup. You see this mess? I like this mess. Are you in it already? Are you in it looking to add? Are you looking to get in it? If you're not in it already, I would wait for sweepers. Yeah. So you could start, put on a starter position, wait. I think sweepers could be a really big tell. Now, they may not show up, and CCL ends up at new highs. But I think if they do show up, it will be a really big tell on this name. But I love the setup. I love that setup. And again, sweeper activity, guys, you hear me. I would blocks. I never had this bias. I always listen. I got a sweeper fetish. There's nothing I can do about it. Okay, but I would trade off and off blocks. The problem now, there's a lot of stock replacement out there. A lot. Okay, some we know about, some we find out about, some we don't, and there's still stock replacement. Sweepers are not going to replace stock. Very rare. The sweepers we look at anyway. The type of action we look for doesn't replace stock. Blocks, negotiated blocks often do. So that's why you hear me say that a lot of times. But, sweepers, in my opinion, tell you a lot about the name. Tell you a lot. All right, let's look at some other names here. Sand. I've seen action in that name before, Sand. That's a minor, right? Yeah. Some of these minors look okay. Look pretty good. So you got Newmont, ABX. What's that? Silver Wheaton. That always catches flow. WPM, that's it, right? But the best looking order was that Newmont. That was the best looking order of the bunch. All right, let's see. What names did I hop over here? What symbol is that? I don't recognize that symbol. SWKS we spoke about. Again, I wouldn't chase these things for anything more than a trade. If you're looking to swing them, look for new ones. Look for new names. I think there's a lot of new stuff out there. Like look, the cruise lines, which William brings up, they have capabilities of being a play. We talked about that gaming sector, which took a little bit of a breather, may set up again. IGT with some nice flow. Biotech has had some good looking action, throughout before this even started this week. There's been some good looking names in biotech. So I think you look for new spots. ABBV, what an animal. That caught ridiculous action. Yeah, so if you're patient, you can find the good stuff comes around. You know, the good stuff comes around if you're patient. A lot of us are traders, so we don't have the we're degenerates. We don't have the time. We don't have the patience to sit around and wait for those setups. But if you're looking for high risk, good looking risk reward setups, you got to be patient and let them set up. Daryl's talking about Boyd. That's been the wise guy fave in the casino sector. Not even close. Usually it's win, right? They love that win. Sometimes it'll be an LVS. Boyd has been ridiculous. Ton of sweeper activity in this Boyd. Ton. So we were looking at win into weakness on Thursday. It caught a little bit of nibbling, nothing special. Little nibbling at a bounce. Hopefully, maybe there'll be something better looking there. Sweepers own this thing. They've owned this name win. And LVS, LVS had come in here. So maybe you could catch a decent looking sweeper there. See, these things catch action. So you want to try to be picky unless, I sound like a broken record, unless you like the name already. If you like the name already, you see some action there, you can use it as confirmation and indicator. But if you're trading off just flow, you want to make sure you see some real deal activity there. Amgen, I get that confused with some of the others. I think Amgen had some action. She's lagging, yeah. It might have been into strength, though. That's why I kind of disregarded it. Let me see if I can find it for you. I don't think it was anything major, but some action. ABBV this week was the best action there. Yeah, see? Here it is. Feb 185s. When was that? Jan 3rd? Oh, okay. So a couple of days ago. That was, oh yeah, it was on this day. I was right. It was at this strength. So what do you got? The 185s. So there's the sweep. Yeah, nothing huge, but you got a sweep there. This name doesn't catch a lot of action either, so something to watch. ALNY gave a lot back, but presenting pre-market Monday. Yeah, that's probably why, Alex. But that thing had a hell of a move, man. Hell of a move. What did it move? Like 10, $11? Something like that? Where'd they hit it? Here? What was the date on that? Hold on. Let me see. The Feb 130s doubled. Oh, you played the Feb 130s? Nice. Yeah. So, that's a nice trade. Now, can it go to new highs and stuff like that? Yeah, it's possible, but you got to dodge some data out there and shit like that. The sweep was good looking. I'll give it that. That's why I remember this name more than others. That sweep was good looking at the perfect spot, too. Tim is talking about Western Union. That had news Friday. Tim, no? Didn't have news on Friday? There was like algo sweepers there. It did, right? What was the news, by the way? Was it Bitcoin news or am I imagining? Something like that? Accepting Ripple. Jesus Christ. Yeah, there was some algo sweeps initially, and then there were sweepers coming in after that. which is usually a good sign, but that one got away from me. I didn't play it. Was this the algo sweep? It might have been even smaller than that, but this is what it looked like, something like that. Jan 20s for a quarter. That might have been it. Yeah, I think that was it. There might have been some smaller action, believe it or not, before that. Smaller than that. Yeah, Feb 21s came into some strength, right? I think Feb 21s, there was some volume after the news, wasn't it? Some algos beat them to the punch. I don't know if that was it. But yeah, at this point now, I don't have an opinion on this. Yeah. Again, I like to catch them here, Tim. Listen, you could get in the middle of this shit for a trade. We know that. But I'm putting a blanket on all of you out there thinking you're swing traders, and you want to look for stuff where they're jumping the move, they're jumping the breakout, they're jumping the news. Anything other than that, in my opinion, is just a trade. Yes, they came in after. Yeah, and there's been flow. WU, SeaWorld too had a little bit of flow. Maybe Shamu's accepting Litecoin or something. But that looks interesting. SeaWorld. That's had some action. I'm telling you, name a group, name a sector. Auto supplies. You guys own anything in that sector? Anybody own any auto supply names? AAP. I'll look at that in a second. This ALSN caught some action this week. Daryl's talking FedEx, UPS, ton of action there. They've been ridiculous. Look at this. Look at this. You guys see this? Look at this. Is this nuts or what? And UPS, this was catchable. This was catchable. Like FedEx just ramped away from everybody. You know what I mean? But UPS had action here. Can you get a better spot than down here? Huge ramp. And then she pulled back and gave you some breather. You believe this? And they were buying it in here. And then rips again. I'm sick for not getting members. I wasn't as authoritative as I should have been on the UPS action. Because of the move, you know what I mean? The move happened and whatever. But anyway, there's a lot of shit out there. So you guys are talking AZO. Wait, I think this AZO caught a bet, Maria, right? Was this the AZO caught a nice bet? Was that the one that caught a nice bet? Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, I think it caught a real nice bet, if I'm not mistaken. One of the auto parts with an A. I get them all confused. Oh, this is recent. This is a call spread recently. I think this AZO. Hold on. You know where I might find it? Because I retweeted it out. I'm just curious. Oh, shh. There we go. Let's see if I can find it here. No, I can't find it. All right. Anyway, yeah. So the auto supply sector, a group that has been on fire. Like, look here. I get this thing. I don't know what the hell app it is. One of these apps with the sector breakdown. I tweeted out a lot, and not the major sectors. I'm talking about like the subsectors. There's so many sectors out there. Never find it when I want to find it. But so many groups. Here it is. Like this. Okay? Like, look at this. Okay? This is Friday. Investment trust, household electronics, managed care, highway and rail, power products, drug retailers, internet, healthcare, toys. Look at these subsectors that were hot. Construction. You guys remember this drywall play? USG? Look at that. Look at that. That had some good looking action. Back here as a hurricane play. And it just caught a big bet. Just caught a big bet just the other day before this pop. NVIDIA, they were playing next week 221 and a halves. No, 220 and a halves, I think they were. Rustin. Yeah, NVIDIA has had some flow. NVIDIA's had some flow and been strong. NVIDIA's had some flow. Yeah, there's been a lot of nice trades too intraday. NVIDIA was red, sweepers into red. That went green for a nice trade. Tesla a couple times. I am still waiting for a good looking Tesla sweep. Still, there's some spec action there. You know what I mean? I want Tesla to catch one of those Amazon Google jammies down here. That's what I want. By the way, that's another thing I think we fell asleep behind the wheel on. On Friday before New Year's, you know, it's funny. Right after I looked at the sentiment chart for the NASDAQ, I have CNBC on, and they're talking about how FANG is the most shorted they've been ever. Can you imagine? Ever. You know, and you had everybody talking about the rotation and all that shit. Set them up lovely. It set them all up lovely. But yeah, guys, here's how I would approach this market right now, honestly. You're going to hear overheated. You're going to hear bubble talk. You're going to hear everything. All I can tell you is this. The bullish sentiment out there, you probably heard me mention this in the past. It's all on the pro side, meaning money managers, advisors, analysts, guys like me. We're pretty bullish. The retail crowd is not irrationally exuberant. They're playing Bitcoin. They're playing nipple. Okay? They're going to start to migrate back to stocks when they start to see, oh shit, you know what I mean? Maybe I can move some size around in the market now instead of sweat out this Bitcoin stuff. Maybe. So maybe they'll come over. But they're not there. They're not there yet. All right. So we've come a long way. And usually when you see this, you get worried a bit. But I wouldn't move to the sidelines. First of all, don't you dare short. If you guys come on this webinar and short, don't tell me about it. Do not tell me about it. Okay. But what I would do is we spoke about this the last webinar. Size down and continue to play. There's big moves out there. You don't have to get rich. But in the meantime, you're going to make a lot of money even with smaller size. And another thing you could do, which not many retail players talk about, if you're too long, if you're uncomfortable, right? If you're up here right now saying, wow, you know, I got 8-10 positions here. If this market pulls, I'm going to be in shit. Buy some protection. It's dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. Okay? But here's the key here. Do not look to profit off your protection. You should want your protection to go to zero and take a little bit off your profits. Do not position where, oh, if the market goes down, I can make some money. That's not what you're looking to do here. Because everybody I know on the pro side, you know what they're worried about? Some sort of flash crash shit. They're not worried about a little pull. They want a little pull. They're worried about some exogenous event flash crash shit. And that's where protection helps you out as a swing trader. So let's say you got a couple setups that you like, okay? And you say, all right, the market's a little bit hot here. You know, I'm a little uncomfortable about an entry up here, but I like these names. Get in, stay a little lighter, and put on some protection, and you'll be okay. Yeah, you may lose a little money, but who cares? You can't be scared of losing money. You should be making money throughout this whole bull market, right? Giving back some profits. That's what this game is all about. That's how you get rich in this game. What do the wise guys do? You see how they roll up and out constantly? Do you see how they do that? Isn't that a beautiful thing, the way they do that? They roll up, roll out, put some money in their pocket. Stock goes to highs again. They roll up, roll out, put some money in their pocket. And they're willing for that last batch, when the stock finally rolls over and runs out of steam, they're willing to give that up. But that's how they catch these big moves. You know, so if you nail an FCX at the right spot and you do something like that and catch this whole move, that's how you make scores. Otherwise, it's all luck. How do you know where this thing tops out? Nobody knows. You know, you catch a DuPont at the right spot. You catch this move. You want to stick in this trade? Maybe she goes parabolic. Roll up, roll out. You know, they don't try to catch this whole move in weeklies. You know, they don't try to catch that big move in front month. They do it the right way. So there's several things you can do if you're playing option, even if you're in stock. Guys, even if you're in stock, you have equity positions, even more of the reason to put on a little protection and maybe stay a little lighter. You know, and I can tell you, listen, the guys who and gals who have and are doing it right that I see in the steam room day in, day out, they're killing it. They're killing it. You know why? They're not missing the opportunities. They're not missing the opportunities. You know, they're playing all the names they're supposed to be playing rather than hoping and NVIDIA continues to go higher this week so they can make a score. Brent's asking, would you stick with XLE at these levels? I'm in March calls. I mean, you're probably got a nice profit. No, Brent? I don't know, like, what entry, where you are, what you're sitting on. I would lock some in and leave some in there. That's what I would do. That's how I would play it, Brent. And you're talking to the wrong one, Brent, because when I see green on my screen, you got to handcuff me. You got to handcuff me. When I see a nice profit on my screen, Jesus Christ, now sell button glows in the dark. So I'm not the right person to ask. It's easy for me to say than do, though. That's, and what I would recommend, especially this type of environment, you have nice profits. Like, let's say you bought the XLE and this is what you were looking for. Just because you got it quicker shouldn't change your plan. You know what I mean? You got it quicker, that's a blessing. Even better. Now you can lock some in, leave some, or roll. And now you got some cash waiting for something else to set up. As opposed to it, moving in February per se. We're seeing a lot, Brent, we're seeing a lot of dated action move nicely because that's where the real buying is taking place. FCAU, what are they buying? June. They were tattooing June calls. Look at this move. June calls. But a lot of members bought the June calls and they doubled and tripled. You know what I mean? They doubled and tripled. And you got to understand with options, okay? This is where you get your biggest bang for your buck. This is where all the heat is, the liquidity, the bids, the excitement. When this thing pulls, a lot of that gets sucked out. So even though you have a lot of time left, this is still always a great spot to lock in some game. Yeah, so John's saying he already, like a wise guy, because that's what they were doing, he already rolled up the FCAU $22 calls to the 26s. Already. Junes. They're Junes. So that's the outlook you got to have. AAP, George, one of these names caught a real nice bet. I wish I knew which one it was. Let me see. One of these auto plays with an A. Hold on. No? Maybe I'll find it in here. Maybe Twitter's acting up. Hold on. Let's go to calls so we can narrow this down. AAP. Maybe it was AAP. Jans 105s. That was in early December at $99. Yeah, that's 113 now. AZO. Jim, you think it was AZO too? Let me see. It was one of them. I know that. It might have been AAP. It might have been, though. Yeah, it was the AAP. It was the AAP. Listen, it's a good looking stock. But, you're a little late to the party here now. Expedia, I haven't seen anything of recent. Let's see. That caught my eye in Expedia. There was some flow near the lows there. Yeah, see, early December. In December. This was the bet I was thinking of right here. $1 million Jan. One, that's the bet. That's the bet I was thinking of. That's early December, though, Maria. Yeah. I like Expedia, too. Especially sweeper activity. They tend to do well. A lot of these things nice lift, but there's so much. Trust me, a lot of times we see a rally like this, and I say to you guys a lot that there's things are just overheated. Everything is gone. There's not too many setups left. There's a lot of stuff still out there, not already set up, but that can set up. You know, that can set up. Square caught some activity Friday. Square, there was one good looking sweep in Square that the market ignored. I'll show you which one. This one. Wait. Yeah, this one right here. The March. Ooh, can you see it? That was awful what I just did. Hold on. So bad. Oh my God. So that was a $565,000 sweeper on 12/6. The stock was 39. Okay. For March. And that was early December. 39. Yeah. That was into these lows. Had a little bounce and it just completely rolled over. But she's back into gear here. But that was a good looking sweeper. And listen, he had some time. You know what I mean? That's the key. That's the trick right there. When you're buying, selling like this, and you want to put some big money behind it, these guys don't buy weeklies. They don't play like that. They speculate in that shit. They roll the dice in that shit. When they want to hammer something, all these bets you see have time behind them. Watch when you see me talk about action. All the sharp, in quotations, action out there, all has time behind it. Some of the sharpest action we've been seeing have been in leaps. And that's a really good sign. You know why? Because that tells you they're sticking with this name. They like this name enough. They're going to be focused on this name. Some of the biggest winners started off with leap sweepers. I'll give you one. DHI. The leap action, and not just this, but the home builders across the board, was jaw dropping and was Bill Miller. Look at this thing. Okay, and then after the leaps, then we started the flow spilling into all the other strikes. Shorter dated stuff. Look at this move. So how are you going to be able to catch a move like this? Without time. How? Good. George is saying, and names with leap action now. I'm trying to think George's stuff recently. He caught me off guard here. I'll try to tweet some out on my personal Twitter today. I'll look through it. We spoke about the Comcast. That's how that action started. PXD. That's how that action heated up. George, you know what's funny? We're seeing it in energy. We're starting to see it in energy names. MRO had a little. So we're starting to see it in energy. You know which had IBM. But that's a move too. But IBM. Jan 2019, Jan 2020. Yes, John saying BlackBerry, another one. A lot of stuff, George, a lot of leap activity that the riffraff out there ignore. end up the biggest winners, man. The biggest winners. Some take time, but that shouldn't scare you away. You shouldn't mind that, and you don't have to be in leaps per se. You could do what, um, um, I just forgot your name. I was just talking to you. Who was I just talking to about the XLE? Well, whoever I was just talking to about the XLE, you could do what we were talking about there. Brent. He's in March calls. Let's say XLE caught some leaps and then caught some March action. You play the March calls. Again, roll up, roll out. If you don't want to play the leaps. Or, I got you, Brent. It just, for me, okay, more than anything else, it tells me I have to keep my eyeballs on that name. That name has to be on my screen now. Because I know they're going to be committed to it on dips. Yes, John makes a great point. All the old tech, Intel, IBM, BlackBerry, they all saw that leap action. All of them. But there's been a lot of it. A lot of it. There's been a lot of it. We're starting to pay attention to it more and more, because it doesn't end there either. They come in and then they start speculating in other stuff around it, like Comcast. But it starts there. When they were buying this blood, when nobody else wanted to, they were buying leaps aggressively. So, you could even, that's the way you could use it. And that's how I give credit. A lot of members did use it that way. They saw them buying Comcast leaps and they said, oh shit, we got to pay attention to this. Even though it's leaps, most people are going to ignore it. We got to pay attention to this. Yeah, Intel's had some action. The setup that I liked was this. Now you got news here, but it did get some action. This setup I liked. You know what I mean? Quiet, no news, no flow, and then all of a sudden they pop up and they come back and they come back again, and then boop, explosion. I don't like noise, John, Oh, yeah. John's saying the best when they come back. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But, John, the key is in consolidation. That's the best. They come back often when things get hot. But the best is when the stock is not doing anything. The flow gets ignored. That's the best. You know why? It stands out. They're bullish when nobody else is. And it's almost like slapping you in the head. Wake up. Get long this thing. It's getting ready. Yep, when it's just playing dead. Those are the best. Again, DWDP was just the latest example of it. You can almost sense it, You could almost sense it. Honestly, I thought they would even come back even more aggressively before this happened. But they didn't have the time. This happened pretty quickly. Cisco, GE, WFT, and Citigroup had some leaps too. Yeah, there's a difference though, Maria, between blocks and stuff like that and aggressive sweeper activity. But VRX, you're right, had some leaps. VRX has been hot as hell though. The whole flow in VRX has been ridiculous. No, Maria? That flow there has been nuts. A lot of bullish action in that VRX. A lot of bullish action. So we'll see. A lot of setups. Like I said, IGT, one in particular, I think. Oh, Pepsi, yeah. Pepsi, yeah. It's only a matter of time, in my opinion. Only a matter of time. The one thing that you're pointing out, Brent, the one thing about Pepsi that I don't like is this. Okay. If it came here, I'd be excited. But it comes up here. But that's all right. Not always going to line up the way you want it. And the second thing was that they're out of the money. You know what I mean? I would feel a hell of a lot more bullish if it caught a JD type bet right now. But still, the aggressive nature behind the flow tells you that there's real buying there. It's worth owning if you're interested in the name. It's worth owning. Yeah, this sell off. This is why I'm not a big fan of buying after a move like this, is because this is normal. This is normal. You're gonna get draws, and more than likely, this is what the rally is gonna look like. You understand? As opposed to this, as opposed to that. You understand? Pepsi's strong, has been strong. So, but again, when I say things like this, I'm just trying to stress the difference in flow. From my experience, the best of the best is what John pointed out. When nobody's looking, nobody's interested, the flow gets ignored and they're buying the shit out of it. That's that divergence, I think, that gives you a big edge off this stuff. Because you've heard me say it before, when shit's bullish already and you see bullish flow, yeah, okay, it's telling you what? They think the trend will continue. But when you get that divergence, where nobody's interested, nobody's bullish, to the point where they ignore the action. They ignore it. Like FCX was ignored when it caught that action. Hell, there were members who had no interest in or off those FCX sweepers because it was FCX doing nothing. But now everybody's talking about the FCX flow. Everybody. Oh, Wells Fargo is the epitome of what I'm trying to explain. The epitome. You know what I mean? Nobody interested. Even when she started to rally, nobody interested when she pulled back and caught flow. So, that's the goods. That's the goods. You can make money off the rest of the stuff, but that's the goods. And you don't have to catch falling knives. Obviously, that becomes more difficult because you might be underwater because they're selling there. So if the flow gets ignored, the stock may continue to sell. That's normal. But when things go sideways and are building nice consolidation, and the little weakness creates opportunities, that's the good stuff. So what's out there now like that? There's nothing really out there. The DuPont was the last of them that have gone. This IGT is a form of that, like I said. This IGT is more of like the Intel setup, I would say. Big move. Okay, I'm looking for an entry. Where is it? Where is it? Without flow, I don't know where it is. I'd be guessing. Now sweepers are starting to get involved. That's my answer. That's the way I use it. All right. Anybody have any last questions before we wrap it up? I'm running out of tonsils here. Anybody have anything to add? Anything at all? Stay warm this weekend. The market will warm us up. Tomorrow, next week will be interesting to say the least, guys. And listen, one more thing. Forget the overall market, please. Do not pay attention to the overall market. There was, honestly, this whole week, I was mentioning it on audio several times. I didn't even know what the market was doing. I had no idea because the flow was just so strong and so aggressive. I didn't care what the market was doing. So if there's action out there, even if the market's up, down, sideways, crooked, if there's legitimate action, especially if they're coming into good looking stuff, who cares? There might be better opportunities when the market's doing nothing. So if this market just goes dead this week after a big move, mark my words, there might be more opportunities out there under the hood. TCK is kind of gone now. Okay. She's gone. This is straight up chasing up here now. That was another one, by the way. Caught action around the same time. FCX. Smaller sweeps, but that's because of the name. Kind of gone. Twitter still looks good. Twitter, the flow's still bullish. They're buying on dips. Twitter still looks solid. You could use this as a secondary, third entry, whatever you want to call it. It's not initial activity, Alex, obviously. There's been a ton of Twitter flow throughout all of this. But this is what you want to see. You don't want to buy into this and get caught, so you want to, this is what you were hoping for an entry. But the Twitter flow has been nonstop. You know what I mean? That's the only issue. It's not like it went dead, like the IGT or the Intel. Twitter, there's sweepers, it seems like every day. Every day. On NetEase, I think that was a block, right? March. Let me see. There was a big block in NetEase. I think that's what he's referring to. Yay. March. How come that's not on there? Maybe, the board might have been screwed up. Hold on. Do you know, Alex? Was it a block? It wasn't a sweep, I would know. How come it's not coming up? What? Shit. Why is it not coming up here? Shit gets in its moods. Yeah, I think it was a big block. I'm almost positive. When it's saying, how do you see the big print in RRC? Again, when those are blocks, that I'm not interested in that stuff. There's been some flow in RRC, but the big stuff you're talking about, a lot of stock replacement and shit like that. My specialty is the kind of stuff I pay attention to are the stuff that looks like this. So they're not going to catch the eyeballs that, like the blocks you're talking about in RRC. But this I know is a real bet. That's the difference. You know what I mean? The blocks, when somebody comes in and buys in one huge negotiated block, it's usually tied to something. Could be stock replacement, could be tied to an existing position, hedging. When they're aggressively doing this, and it almost looks like they're trying to stay under the radar, but they keep coming too, especially, that's the strongest activity. Because what happens is some of the most aggressive action when will be bigger than that block you see, but not all at once and visible to everybody. You understand? Like when you do the math on these bets, they're not as small as you think. When you do the math, you know what I mean? So that's what I look for. And from my experience, you will see better results from that. Because again, we're looking to side with the smart money, right? We're looking to take advantage of the momentum off the buying from that smart money. So blocks are less likely to be directional plays. That's basically what I'm saying. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Stay warm. Next week should be interesting. If you have any questions, again, wallstreetjesus.com. You'll pretty much be able to figure out everything on there. Easy to access. All right. And I'll look forward to seeing everybody next week and hearing from you guys. Happy New Year. Happy and healthy New Year to everybody out there. All right. Thanks for stopping by today. Be good, guys.